So imagine you're a peasant in 1690s Japan, minding your business, maybe tending some rice, and doing general peasant stuff, when suddenly a samurai shows up at your door to arrest you and sentence you to death. Your crime? Swatting a mosquito off a dog. Okay, so, feudal Japan. You know the deal. Samurai, shoguns, everyone's got a sword and a lot of honor. And the emperor is basically a decorative gourd who is technically important but functionally useless. Real power rests with the shogun, the military dictator running the whole archipelago. And for most of the Edo period, the Tokugawa shoguns were actually fine. They were competent and boring in the way that stable governments tend to be, keeping the peace for 250 years, which honestly deserves more credit than it gets. Then we get to Shogun number 5, Tokugawa Tsunayoshi. And buddy, this guy was a project. Tsunayoshi was born in 1646 as the third son of the third shogun, which is the classic never-gonna-be-in-charge position. He grew up doing cultured things like Confucian philosophy, court music, and no theater, which is exactly the kind of hobby a guy develops when he knows he's never going to have real responsibilities. Then his older brothers died, and suddenly Culture Boy is the 5th shogun of Japan. To be fair, early Tsunayoshi wasn't terrible. He cracked down on corruption and promoted people based on merit instead of birth, which was genuinely progressive stuff. Historians even call this the good government of Tenwa. But then something changed, and that something was a Buddhist monk named Ryuko, who pulled up to the palace and told Tsunayoshi that the reason he had no male heir was because he had killed too many living creatures in a past life. Your karma is a disaster. You probably stepped on a lot of ants in the 1400s. That sounds plausible. How do I fix it? Be nice to animals, specifically dogs. Tsunayoshi, a man with absolute power and zero chill, decided this was the most logical advice he had ever heard. Now, you need to know one more fact about Tsunayoshi. He was born in the year of the dog, under normal circumstances. This is just a fun birthday factoid you tell people at parties before moving on. But under Tsunayoshi, this became the central organizing principle of the entire government. In 1687, he issued the Edicts on Compassion for Living Things. Initially, it was reasonable stuff like not abandoning sick horses or injured animals, but Tsunayoshi was not done. The edicts kept escalating until they got very specifically about dogs. Dogs could not be killed, mistreated, or even yelled at. If a dog wandered into your house, you had to care for it, and if one got sick, you had to report it to the government using polite language. As complaints about stray dogs mounted, because making dogs legally untouchable tends to create a lot of strays. Tsunayoshi didn't reconsider the edicts. Instead, he built the dogs a city. I'm not joking. He constructed massive dog kennels in Edo that housed up to 100,000 dogs, all funded by taxpayers and staffed by workers who fed them rice and dried fish. Meanwhile, the actual humans were dealing with a massive famine and were not doing great. Is that salmon? For the dogs, yes. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Try barking. Maybe they'll throw you a bone. The public privately started calling him Inu Kubo, or the Dog Shogun. And trust me, they did not mean it as a compliment. The edicts eventually expanded to cover horses, cattle, birds, fish, insects, and even abandoned babies. Which was actually good, but it was buried in a list with caterpillars, so the optics were messy. Fishermen couldn't fish, doctors couldn't use live animals for medicine, and even falconry was banned. People were being exiled or executed by the hundreds for things as simple as stepping on a chicken. Though Tsunayoshi ruled for 29 years, he died in 1709 without ever producing an heir. Local rumors even suggest his wife stabbed him to death in a desperate bid to prevent the enactment of further dog laws. Honey, I think we should give hats to the dogs. What do you think? So what's the lesson? Don't listen to monks, maybe. Don't give one guy unlimited power? Probably. Or maybe the line between visionary reformer and guy who built a city for dogs while his people starved is thinner than you'd like. Anyway, that was Tsunayoshi.